Çağdaş, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to have you here today because we are going to talk about AI. And especially these days, there is a huge hype around AI. But in fact, you've been dealing with machine learning for around 20 years. You've been dealing with AI well before it was hyped, right? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. I'm just thinking about everything that is going on these days, especially in these larger companies, Facebook, Google. They are laying off software engineers, and they claim that they have now all of these fancy AI tools that are going to replace them. So, what do you think about this? What is your take on it?
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Like, you look at the job market right now, it's just going crazy. A lot of people are getting laid off from big companies, FAANG companies. Google's CEO is making statements like 25% of our code is being written by AI at this point. So a lot of people are getting the impression that AI is replacing all the engineers, and that's the reason that the engineers are getting laid off. And I disagree with that. I mean, in the big companies, I think they are using the AI very efficiently to write code, and that may factor into some of the layoffs. But if you look at the startup world and mid-sized businesses, if you're a founder or an investor and you're getting the idea that, oh, I don't need to hire engineers anymore, I'll just go to ChatGPT and ask him to write me a code that could write me an app that does X. That is not working. So you can create prototypes that way. In some cases they can be quite sophisticated prototypes, but ultimately that's what they are, prototypes. I mean, like these days, Bolt.new, Replit is coming out. Anthropic is coming out with their own solution for writing software. Cursor.ai is a really good one. I use it myself. But ultimately, you need to know what you're doing to use these tools effectively, especially Cursor. Replit.ai, Replit and Bolt.new, some of those platforms are geared towards more business people. And they can create like prototypes to convey ideas. They can even be used in presentations. But if you think that you're going to take that and you're going to start making money, that's not the reality. So what's happening right now is that these engineers, they start getting these tools like Cursor, and they're becoming much more efficient. So like if you have a really good engineer, like they used to call this 10x engineer, and you give them the Cursor, it speeds them up significantly. So you get more bang for the buck. So you should definitely do that. But if you're thinking, oh, I'm just going to lay off the engineer, I'm just going to do everything myself, that's not the reality. That's not what's going to be happening. And so that's basically the current status. I think a lot of these companies, the bigger companies, I think they're benefiting from the um, efficiencies of scale, and especially with AI, that's definitely helping them. But in the smaller ranks, small business and mid-sized businesses, I don't think the AI is having as much impact from that perspective. I mean, it's definitely having an impact in terms of productivity, but not in terms of the FTE count. So you still need a significant amount of engineers. If you're starting up a new company, you gotta find still good engineering talent, and that's still required.
Yeah. And now this opens up lots of new topics how we could unfold this discussion because as you are talking, I have new questions somewhere in the back of my mind. Especially, I'm thinking of some of the startup founders who may be now listening to this episode or watching you on YouTube, and they may be thinking, okay, what does it mean for me? I have this startup with 5, 7, 10 engineers. We just raised Series A. Um, as a founder, I don't want to lay off these people, right? Because that would be quite unfortunate. But what do I do? How can I get most out of these tools? How can I accelerate the product development? How can I get the MVP to the market faster?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that is the age-old question, right? I mean, with AI, it's definitely getting a renewed perspective. But the basics first. You gotta attract talent. You gotta keep them motivated, and you got to keep them. So that's basically you got to do that as a startup founder, no matter what. And the key to doing that is basically, you know, give the engineers what they're looking for. And so the question is, what are the engineers looking for then? The engineers want to feel like they're accomplishing something good. They want to feel like they're accomplishing something that is going to be used. And you know, you know, as all human beings, we want that, right? We want to feel useful. We want to feel like what we're doing is going to be helping other humans, maybe even advance the humanity in some way. And so the purpose is number one. You know, there are a lot of books about that. You know, the Start with Why is one of them. That's a very good book. You know, basically, you need to motivate the engineers. You got to tell them, hey, look, this is the system that I'm trying to build, and you know, here's you know, how it's going to be impacting everybody else. Here's how we're going to be making money. Obviously, you need to do that for anybody that's going to be working in this company, but it's especially important for the engineers who are going to be working on this product because they need to understand the vision. Once they understand the vision, everything becomes a lot simpler. Then we get to work, you know, and that includes me as well, by the way. Like typically when I start working with a startup as the CTO, I just go in, I'm like, okay, what is this about? Like, what are we trying to accomplish? And get everybody together in the same room, even the like the lowest of the lowest engineers to the top CEO. Let's understand what we're going to be building. How is that going to be impacting? And once the engineers actually understand the vision, the impact that we're trying to have, then everything becomes a lot simpler, right?
Yeah.
So you know, the engineers, they go like, you know, even if they don't understand a particular detail, they understand, okay, well, this is the end goal, so how can I get there? So you know, in military, they call this as well, like, you know, the commander's intent, right? So they don't tell you everything that you need to do to you know, basically do something. They just say capture that hill, and you know, that's our goal, and here's our plan. And if the plan doesn't go to you know, as expected, then you still know what to do. Like, okay, that's the goal. So that's the first thing to give to the engineers. And obviously, don't, you know, try to micromanage them as much. You know, that's the tricky part, right? So you know, you want to have somebody that's capable of managing these engineers. If you think that, oh, I'm just going to have a non-technical person that's managing all the engineers, that's another reason engineers quit, because they don't like this uncertainty. They're going to have differences. Every engineer has a different idea of what's supposed to happen, and this conflict resolution, you need to have somebody that knows what they're doing up top, and so that they're going to be able to resolve the conflicts, and they're going to say, okay, well, you know what, I understand that that's what you're thinking. I understand that's what you're thinking. This is where you're coming from. Here's what I want. This is what we're going to be doing. And you need to be able to do that in a way that's not going to be offending anybody. And that's very hard. But yeah, so that's basically what the engineers are looking for. That's what the startup founders, I would recommend they do. First of all, start with a good technical leader, and then you know, attract engineering talent based on the vision, and then that's basically the key to making it happen.
Awesome. And once you have these people in place, then you start working towards increasing their productivity, I guess, right?
Yes.
So we can pause here as well. And you know, sometimes I have these flashbacks from 10 years ago when there was a new framework every Monday, right? One
Yeah.
JavaScript framework of the week
Yeah.
on the front end. And I'm wondering whether something similar happens these days as well with these new fancy AI tools. At the end of the day, these are just tools, right? And it's up to us how we use them. We can get distracted by the next shiny object, or we can stick to one and get the most out of it. So how to find balance between being distracted and being busy when it comes to writing code, and being laser focused and deliver results for the startup?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we used to call that JavaScript fatigue. You know, it used to be like a new framework coming out everybody. You know, it's like, oh my God, like what are we gonna do? We just wrote this and it's already outdated. That has been happening since time immemorial, really. Like since I started, I mean, it just got like really extreme with JavaScript, but it has been happening throughout the years. You know, when I started writing code in 1993, it was Perl. That was the hottest thing. and then it became what C sharp, and
Mhm.
then it became the PHP, and then it became JavaScript, and nowadays it's Python. So it's just and Go and Ruby, Rails,
Mhm.
those are it just new programming languages keep coming up, and every single one, even within programming languages in Python, you got Django, Flask, and then finally Fast API now. It's the natural evolution of things, right? So how do you keep up with that? So the important thing that I see is don't get into the hype too much. Always follow a year behind. Like
Mm.
follow a year behind is generally a good rule. And if you find that your code is 4 or 5 years old, it's
Yeah.
ancient. It's time to change it at that point. Like I don't like in this environment, I don't see any code really surviving more than 5 years. I mean, I have code that I think still works to this day that I wrote 10 years ago in production. But it's probably changed quite a bit, and it's probably about time to change that. And if you go to big companies like big corporations, banks, etc., some of them are still running on COBOL. That's like way time to change them.
Crazy.
You got to move on.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Goldilocks region, so to say, is 1 to 4 years, 1 to 5 years. You wanna follow a little behind. And AI, obviously, it's been 2, 3 years now since these tools started coming out. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You gotta like some of the big corporations, they're like keeping AI, not allowing AI in for the developers because of security concerns or whatever. Get over it. It's it's the new reality of how we're developing things, and they're
Mm.
starting to understand that now. They're starting to. I mean, I'm not talking about Google and Facebook. I'm talking about like banks and older institutions, manufacturing companies, etc.
Mm.
Those are falling behind in software technologies, and you gotta let the developers use AI tools and keep up with the latest technologies. But like I said, a little behind, like just one
Yeah.
year behind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And on this note, what are some of your favorite tools? You mentioned a few just a while ago. So do you have any favorite one that you use or you recommend other founders and software engineers use?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I used so as far as databases go, I still like SQL. I mean, there has been a lot of hype about like NoSQL databases, MongoDB, BigQuery, Hadoop, MapReduce. MapReduce is now changing into Dataflow. Like there's a lot of evolution in terms of databases. Graph databases, another one, Neo4j. I love Neo4j, but
Mm.
it's a niche product, right? I mean, the proponents of Neo4j would probably blast me for saying this, but I think it's a niche
Mm.
product. They say that you can use it for anything, but in reality, like 90% of the software code that's written out there is using SQL databases. So as far as the SQL databases go, what are the recommendations? Well, MySQL, Postgres, and Microsoft SQL Server is probably the top three, and Oracle coming distant for at this point. But MySQL and Postgres are the top ones. Really, like the way that I see it, the share between them is like it was. MySQL was winning the war, but now they're losing it after Oracle bought them out. So at this point, yeah, I would recommend
Mm.
Postgres to everybody. I've been using MySQL for 20 years, and that's my comfort zone. But now I'm actually moving into Postgres.
Mm.
As far as the programming languages go, like I said, my programming language changed over the years, but right now I'm getting more and more into Python on the server side, primarily because all the machine learning and AI software libraries are coming out in Python. So you got to follow that. Even if like some of the other languages like Go or Rust may be more efficient than Python, everybody's on Python, so you gotta follow the
Mm.
where the technology is being developed. So and as far as the front end goes, it's still JavaScript's the king, right? So you gotta have a single page application with React or Angular. Really is it's okay. I like it, but it's still a bit slow even after all the performance enhancements that they made. Solid is really good. Quick is really good. I really like them. But ultimately, like I think React's market share is something like 70-80%. And for that one, I actually like Preact, Performance React, as they call it, which is compatible with React. I still try to use that. So that's my go-to stack right now. React on the front end, Python on the server side, and Postgres database. So I think that's the current state-of-the-art configuration.
Awesome. Well, I really like how analytical you are when you are evaluating these tools, because for a lot of people, they see the new shiny object and they go and chase it, right? But you look at it and say like, hey, 80% of products use MySQL, so why not to use it? And probably Postgres is slightly better than MySQL, so this is my go-to choice. What
Yeah.
about some of the AI tools?
Yeah. Like I said, Cursor is I do everything in Cursor right now. It is I want to be disclaimer, I'm not paid by Cursor in any way, shape, or form. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm just a fan. I started using it, I think about 6 months ago. I really love it. I just say something like, this is what I want. I give the main architecture. It starts coding it. Do you like it? Yeah, I say, change this part, change that part. It works really well. But ultimately, and I tried with Replit and Copilot as well. Some of the other JetBrains IE AI assistant. I tried that one. None of them actually worked as well as Cursor. They just provide some suggestions, and then you start saying, okay, well, change can you fix that? I tried that, it's not working, and then it starts going into this rabbit hole, and then it thinks that like a certain part of the code is not working correctly, and then it breaks it even more, and then it tries to fix it by breaking something else, and then it just everything goes to doesn't work anymore at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
And so you have to know what you're doing. You have to understand, okay, well, this is what I'm thinking. What you provided me is still wrong. Maybe at some point, the AI is going to get to that, like, okay, you just say it and then it starts doing everything perfectly like a human engineer. We're not at that point yet. Even with O1, O3, like the top, the benchmarks saying that, oh, these guys are these models are working like 90% of the PhD levels. That's not what I'm seeing. It's just that's just not what it is. But
Yeah.
like if you have a good engineer, if you know what you're doing, and you put Cursor on top of that, and you can use any language. Like my Python is not as good as my JavaScript, but I tell Cursor, hey, write me a fast API server that does this. Look, just prepares it. I just make a few edits, and it really speeds it up. So I don't have to think about, oh, what are the little configurations that I have to do, the libraries that I need to include. I don't even need to think about that. I just write the code and it starts working. So I love it.
Yeah, it's crazy what is possible today. It's just
Yeah,
unbelievable. We are having this discussion in 2025. Like, who would
yeah,
have thought 10 years ago, right? It's
yeah,
crazy,
yeah,
crazy, crazy. And this makes also keeping engineers motivated much more difficult, right? Because they also may, who knows what will happen in the
yeah,
next few years. Maybe they will want to keep increasing the speed of innovation. Maybe the business will replace some of the engineers with product managers who will be coding these MVPs. So it's
yeah,
hard to say what the future will hold. But
yeah.
even today, it's difficult to attract engineers. But you've been leading engineering teams over the last years. So what worked for you specifically in terms of attracting top talents?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, the key is to give them the vision,
Mhm.
and basically, we don't like to say this out loud, but pretty much all engineers are working for their resumes, especially the younger ones. So when a younger engineer, like if you got a fresh out of college or 1 year experience or whatever, you ask them what they're looking for. They want to add to their resumes. That's basically
Mhm.
what the reality is. Nobody's going to be working for you until the end of their lives, right? It's
Yeah.
you're lucky if you get 2 years out of engineers at this point. In 3 years, you're incredible. Like if you can keep a talented engineer for 3 years, you're an incredible business. You have created an environment where employees are very, very happy. Because that the engineers have a lot of opportunities, even in this market, especially the good ones have a lot of opportunities. So if you can actually tell them, hey, here's the environment, you keep working, and they're not leaving, yeah, that's incredible. I want to say one more thing. So regarding the uncertainty of the future, that is absolutely a big problem, and everybody's worried about that. Nobody knows what's going to be happening, how the AI models are going to keep advancing, and how efficient they're going to get. Right now, what's happening is all the LLMs, all the large language models, are being built from neural networks. And transformers, and some variations of them. Some of them are working with diffusions, but by and large, these are transformer models on neural networks. So the next step that I see is neurosymbolic AI, and I think a lot of people share that sentiment, and that's going to be a totally different thing. I think at some point the transformer neural network models and the neurosymbolic AI efforts, like Thousand Brains and HTMs, are going to start merging. And and the reason that I say that is because ultimately they're both trying to do the same thing. If you look at the neural network models with transformers, they're deep learning. They're trying to create an ontology. Like the neural networks are basically representing certain patterns, and then they're getting connected between layers. So that's basically creating an ontology, and inference is basically just going through that ontology. And neurosymbolic AI is trying to do the same thing, but in a lot more efficient way that you can actually keep learning. So that's the main problem with the neural networks right now. They can't keep learning. They can't, I mean, they fake learning using RAGs and other techniques, but they don't really learn. That once you train them, if you try to train them more after that, it becomes destructive, and the model loses accuracy. So I think what's going to be happening is at some point, I'm not entirely sure, maybe 5 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, we're going to have like neurosymbolic AI coming in. And this is going to be more like machine intelligence, not machine learning, not artificial intelligence, but machine intelligence. And that's basically like going to be very, very close to a human. Like when you talk with AI, it's going to remember what you said. It's going to, it's going to start making connections that you did not think about, that did not even appear in the context. So when that happens, yeah, we're going to be, I think we're going to be in a different reality. But until then, like I said, I'm not entirely sure how long that's going to take, maybe 5, 10, 20 years. But until then, this is the current reality. So you still have to attract talent and keep them the old-fashioned way, unfortunately.
Yeah. So until that happens, we still have our jobs. But
Yes, I think so.
once that reality materializes, then we are doomed, I guess. At
Yeah,
least
yeah,
some of us, Awesome.
yeah. But that's like I said, that's a long time to come. And even like if we get to that point, I think they call it the singularity, because they're saying, like, if you get to that point where you have an AI that can actually act like an actual human being, that's like the idea is that humanity is going to be constructing a single AI that's going to be all encompassing and all knowing, and that's going to be the singularity at that point. Like, I think pretty much the whole humanity is going to be like, what do we do?
Yeah, we will be just eating chocolate and desserts.
Yeah, exactly.
At least in my case,
Yeah.
Okay, so until that happens, I guess a lot of the startups out there that they need to hustle and build their MVPs. So we could get back to what we discussed just a while ago and unfold this a bit further. Because you've been over the last 15 years building products, MVPs, scaling them. So what is your major takeaway if you think about what worked in terms of taking an MVP and getting it to the market?
Yeah, I mean, so the first part is to build the MVP, right? So we talked about how important it is to differentiate the prototype from an MVP. MVP is a minimum viable product for the people who are watching this that may not be familiar with the term. So a minimum viable product is not a prototype. A prototype is like a toy, right? Proof of concept, so to say. So let's say you want to create, I don't know, a credit card server. Right? Like you want to have a server where there's going to be some request coming in, ISO 8583 request coming in, and you want the system to parse that and do a transaction, reduce the limit of the credit card if there's enough, and then return success. And if there isn't, you're not going to be returning anything. So you actually give that information to the cursor, and it just doesn't work, right? It's gonna take a long time, and then it gives you, so you actually need to attract talent to turn that into an actual MVP, right? So that's the first step. And then once you actually have the working MVP, like in your development environment, you verified everything is working, then you need to set up the DevOps to deploy it to the cloud. And nowadays it's so much easier. Like it used to be, we used to have like these continuous improvement tools. Hudson, I don't know if you remember that. Even Jenkins is old now. So pretty much all the builds nowadays are going through, all the DevOps is going through the cloud providers DevOps. In Azure, AWS, GCP, they all have their own versions of these build tools. And what you basically create a container typically. And again, I think that's a huge improvement over what we used to do. I remember the time, like I created a cluster myself, a load balance cluster with an F5 hardware load balancer in front, and then 7 backend servers running different services, web service, email service, DNS, what have you. And then it would just hit, and then round robin between all of them. And then nowadays you just basically create the container, and then you just roll it out to ECS or Kubernetes, and there you go. You just specify, oh,
Mm.
increase the amount or decrease the amount, and you can even make it say, oh, increase and decrease the scale between these ranges as traffic comes. So all you have to do then is just watch out for the costs, because
Mhm.
that stuff is expensive. It can get really expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why you wanna have somebody that knows what they're doing. Like there are even companies that reach out to me. Like all they do is just optimize AWS costs, and
Mm.
they're like, oh, do you have the right plan? Like you wanna purchase the yearly plan if you can afford it, or like how many servers are you really running? What their usage is? You wanna check those out. You want to make sure that they're below a certain amount. And yeah, so the, the the short answer of it is scaling MVPs. The key to scaling MVPs is the cloud, and
Mm.
unfortunately, the AI is not going to help you a lot with that. I mean, you can ask a lot of questions, but it will give you how to do that. It will give you answers about how to do that, but ultimately, you still have to do it yourself. Like it's not going to give, even if it gives you a Terraform script, like, oh, here, run this Terraform script, everything's going to, it's probably not going to be perfect anyways. But even if it were, you still have to buy the environment and, set up everything, and then maybe, create run the Terraform script. You got to know what you're doing. You need a cloud engineer that knows what they're doing. And so that's basically the key. And,
Mm.
and, and lastly, once you do that, it's an awesome feeling when you actually achieve the product market fit, when you see that you created this product and it's being used every day. That is the ultimate satisfaction for CTOs and engineers alike, or really anybody in the company. Like once you have like a small startup team, 5 to 10 people coming together and creating this product, and it really is being used, there is
Yeah.
no better feeling than that. I love it.
Yeah. Well, what could be better if it earns money and is
Yeah.
profitable? Like even better, right? It's not just a
Yes,
feeling, but also
obviously.
money in the bank.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But just making money is not enough, is what
Of
I'm
course,
saying. Like,
of course.
from my perspective, for example, I don't want to deal with Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. It's just my personal preference. Like
Mm.
if I worked for a company that does Web3 or DeFi or whatever, I would not be happy because that's not my purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right? So even if it's making a lot of money, that's just not enough by itself. Like the engineers need to feel like it fits with their own purpose. Like
Mm.
I'm doing something that works, that will help advance the causes that I believe in. And once you have that and you see that it's working, yeah, it's priceless.
And if you speak with engineers, do you somehow systematically uncover what is their passion or what their dream focus is, or I'm not sure how to label it, but essentially getting to what you are describing in your
Yeah,
case.
yeah, absolutely. So, but if you ask the engineers what are you looking for, they're not going to be able to articulate what they're looking for. The engineers, and I, you are one. So we're not very great at communicating our feelings.
Yeah.
It's just we're not very expressive that way. But I can, over the years, I have learned to recognize some of the key patterns, right? So like I said, if you have a really unexperienced engineer, like 1 year fresh out of college, they're working towards their resume, right? What their goal is. They want to say, oh, I worked with this cool technology to put on my resume. I did this. And if you go up a little bit higher, mid range, again, similar thing, but they want promotion, they want title. Obviously, all of them want money. We all want money. But
Yeah.
apart from that, they want title. Like you get into the mid-level range, they want to say, like when I say mid-level these days, it's really 2 to 5 days, 5 years, two to
Mhm.
5 years. That's the mid-range. They're all looking for like, oh, senior engineer, staff engineer, distinguished engineer, whatever you have. They want that title, like lead engineer. They want to become lead engineers. So once you get the 5, 10 year mark, I think you start at that point depends on the engineer, right? So if you like, we don't talk about this a lot, but really engineering job is quite demanding, and a lot of people don't actually make it.
Mm.
So you there are people, I have seen people that start in companies, and I understand they may not have the initial all the knowledge that's required for the job. And some people, they may not have all the knowledge, and you teach them and they pick up very, very quickly. And
Mm.
some people don't. And that's okay. Their talent lies elsewhere. And unfortunately, those people, they don't make it to beyond, 2, 3 years mark. They don't get to that level. The ones that do, they have a very particular mindset. And that's basically like at that point they go, okay, well, I have done all this stuff. I have done incredible projects. I have made other people money. I have a great resume. I have good knowledge. So
Yeah.
now what do I do? Right?
Yeah.
So then they start thinking about either working for big companies like Fang. They either go that route. I want to make a lot of money. That way, I don't, I don't really care about what I'm going to be doing in that big company. I just want to be associated with the big company. Or the other route is I want to basically do my own thing and basically profit this from my own, right?
Yeah.
So that's basically where the bifurcation happens. And for me, it was the other route. I went the startup route. I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to build products. I want to see what I'm doing. And the other route goes to the FANG companies, big companies, and that's valid too. So at that point, you look at what they're trying to do and you try to provide it.
Yeah, awesome. And what is your view on remote work these days when companies like Amazon are pulling workers back to the office? What is your recommendation for startup founders who want to find balance between productivity and getting the most results? At the same time, people can work remotely, of course, right? But is it the most
Yeah.
efficient way?
It can be. So I really don't see too much difference between local work and remote work. I mean, local like hybrid is also another option. I guess we should talk about all of them. Like if you're fully on site, and I've worked on site for years, like there's great advantages to that. What is it? Well, you get to actually, you can go to somebody's desk and say, hey, I've got this problem. I like, you asked for this. I don't know what's going to be happening. Or, so, like, somebody hands you a request from support. Oh, in the ticketing system, I want you to change this. You're like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. You can just walk to the support director and say, hey, this is what you wanted. And then they go, oh, no, this is what I wanted. Here's how to do it. And then you can get that feedback. Not to mention, the lunches and the socialization aspect. The engineers, we don't talk a lot about, like, a lot of the engineers are introverted. So we don't really talk about the socialization need, but we do. We do need socialization. All humans do. So the working on site has those advantages. The downside is, you get worn out a little bit, right? Because, nothing beats the comfort of working from your home. A lot of the times you can just kick off, wear more comfortable clothes. You get to the office, sometimes it's loud, you have to put on headphones. Like, sometimes you're tired, and then you're home, you can just take a nap for an hour and then get back to work. You can't do that at the office. So those are the downsides of it. But on the downside, working from home, then you lose the motivation. Like, it's very, very easy. Like, if you're going hybrid, maybe like 1 or 2 days from home, that's fine. But if you're like 5 days from home, like nonstop, it's hard to keep yourself motivated. Like, especially if you don't have a lot of meetings, that wears down on you. Like, no socialization. You're all by yourself, alone, continuously, day in, day out, coding. It gets old quite pretty quickly. So I think the right answer is probably the hybrid. To like, maybe 1 or 2 days off per week, like, working from home. But that would be my preference. But the obviously it depends on the startup's founder, right? So the startup's founder has to set the right tone. If they want everybody at the office, that's what's going to be happening. If they say, what, I want everybody remote, that's what's going to be happening. So ultimately, the engineers, we're trying to, I mean, in this market, we're all trying to survive. It's a difficult market right now. So I would recommend everybody, just look for local jobs. If they say come to the office, go to the office. If they, obviously consider for yourself what the circumstances are. But if I had my way, I would say, probably the hybrid is the best way. But obviously in this environment, we can't always choose.
Yeah, so true. And what would be your, well, I'm not saying best recommendation because it could be hard to evaluate which one is the best, but let's say the last recommendation during this podcast to a startup founder, a CEO who has a great idea, potentially raise the Series A or probably pre-seed round, and is kind of wondering, okay, what can I do? How can I really kill it? Based on your experience going through all of these ups and downs, scaling the products, what is the one thing that you would like to mention before we wrap it up?
Well, I would mention two, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So number one thing, you have to hire a competent CTO, like, a technical person. The title doesn't have to be CTO, but somebody that knows what they're doing. Like, you start with that person, right? You have to make sure that you got somebody that's going to be understanding everything that's going to be happening, and how to make it happen. And apart from that, I would say the most important thing is, don't wait too long to get the product to market. So that's the other thing. So get somebody that knows what they're doing, and then get them to develop an MVP as quickly as possible and get them tested. So this is not a new thing. This is not even from me. This is from Lean Software Development Methodology by Eric Ries, and I would highly recommend that book. So this is like, I myself actually suffered from this once. Like, I created a product. It was an incredible product, but then we went to market too late, and we found out that nobody really cared about our product, even though it was a great product. So that's what I would recommend. Like start with a good technical founder and build the MVP as quickly as possible and get it to market validation as quickly as possible.
Wonderful, wonderful. And if anyone would like to connect with you, where they can find contact details, or how can they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to my LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn/in/Çağdaş Ucar. That's my name. Yeah, feel free to contact me. I would love to connect.
Awesome. I will include the LinkedIn URL in the show notes.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Miko.
Thank you. It was very useful. I hope to see you soon again. Bye.